night. Good night.
Can you do a mic check again, Ron? I can hear you, but it's very faint.
All right. Good night. Good night. Check 1 2
Ah,
1 2.
got you, got you.
I can hear you, Ron. Can you hear
All
me?
right. Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. We can hear all the pots and pans. You must be cooking some
No,
lentil
man.
something, huh?
I did lentil and some beans. Yes.
Yes, or something like that.
So,
All right. Good night, everybody. Welcome to the Fatherhood Think Tank. The 60 to 90 minutes of fathers, for fathers, about fathers, talking about father issues. Talking about the concept, the idea of how fathers think about things. This week we have a nice topic. Um, uh, we had another topic that came in. It came in right before, right at the last minute. So we'll be doing that topic next weekend. But the nice topic is the myth of the missing black father. And you might even ask yourself, hey, where does this come from? What are we talking about? And I'm going to talk deeply into it. But before I do that, I'm going to introduce our sponsors for the night, and then I'm going to get the fathers to introduce themselves. Again, as always, I'm Dr. Ron, the Fatherhood Think Tank curator, and we are here for the Fatherhood Think Tank. Let me go and first introduce some of our sponsors. I always like to keep those sponsors hot and heavy because that's sometimes how we keep the lights on. Well, we don't really got lights, but we, we keep the stream yard going. First, let's start with our key sponsor, JAG, attorney at law, down in South Florida, Miami-Dade, Broward, West Palm Beach. If you're trying to get in touch with JAG, attorney at law, you're looking to get in touch with Johnny A. Gaspar, Esquire. You can reach him at his email address, j.gaspar at jag1law.com, or you hit him on the phone number at a 305-827-8087. And if you're trying to find out what type of law he practices, how can he help you in your legal situations, go to his website, www.jag1law.com. That's one of our keynote sponsors. Our second sponsor is Fort Lauderdale Q's, Zeta Chi chapter of Omega Psi Phi, 1954. Have been a sponsor since the beginning of the Fatherhood Think Tank. So we want to thank those guys for their continued support with the Fatherhood Think Tank. Another chapter is Zeta Xi Nu, Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria. Uh, so to let you know that Fatherhood Think Tank is international. We're not just in one place. Once you get an opportunity to be on the World Wide Web, you can get sponsors and people who support. So that chapter of Omega Psi Phi, Zeta Xi Nu out of Lagos, Nigeria. And then we have our next sponsor is uh, the Philly Q's out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the Omega Lambda chapter of Omega Psi Phi here in the snow-driven city of Philadelphia. Uh, just, just, just so you, that's what we've been dealing with all the last couple of days. But I'm sure those brothers been out there shoveling people's yards and helping people get to how they go. With that being said, those are our sponsors, and just a quick sponsorship of our flagship new partner show is Healthy Black Marriage and Family Podcast with myself, Fawn Robinson, and Jaquetta Sumter. On Thursday nights at 8 o'clock on the YouTube station. You can go right to my web page. I mean, right to my Facebook page or the YouTube page. Um, Mentor, educator, therapist, Black Father on YouTube, and you can see that show. We have some really good topics. We talk about some real issues that affects the overall uh, marriage and the family community.
Hmm.
So I just give you those highlights. Now let's get to action. What we have going on tonight. Let me introduce the guys tonight who's here tonight. Introduce themselves. Regular fathers who are here. We also welcome anybody out there. Like, share, subscribe. If you're interested in coming into joining us, just hit something on one of the links. Say, hey, I'd like to come into the room, and we'll invite you right in. And questions, comments, concerns, any of that, because the more people can have this conversation, the more we can get done in the fatherhood sphere. All right, go ahead, guys. Introduce yourself for tonight.
All right, I'll go. I'll start off. My name is Rohan Rodok. I'm a father of two young adults, uh, two young ladies going through the journey. They're young teenagers now, so it's a different part of the journey. Um, well, I should say young adults, I should say. As usual, I like to join the Fatherhood Think Tank because it's a place where we can learn and can share our journey and hopefully share with people on the World Wide Web who may have similar concerns or issues. And we are always here to help fathers be fathers.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Ed Tenney. I am a transitioning single dad to a single dad, and I have three grown adult children. Uh, Between the three of them, I have two grandbabies, and one is still cooking. So we're looking for that one to come in about June timeframe, and I'm happy to be here.
All right, great, great. I know that when people see a topic like this, it's sometimes we're always talking about missing dads or how dads are missing, but I really wanted us to kind of get into this idea because I can say that the myth of the missing black father is proven very proven to be exactly a myth just by coming to the uh, fatherhood think tank, because the fathers are right here, and they're not missing at all. But I would say that I think that one of the things I've been looking at a lot is looking at our not just our because social media has a way of presenting things, but looking at overall media. I remember a way back a long time ago, and we was talking about people talking about their favorite TV shows, and I think I might have said one of my favorite TV shows was Good Times, and I think you were saying there's some things that I have some problems with Good Times. And as I think about ever since you said that, I've always had that. And again, this is what I mean when you come to a setting, when you're coming to a setting to listen and talk, you remember what people say, and it has an effect on changing your viewpoint. And so I started thinking about shows during that time, and I thought about people would say, "Hey, what as what Good Times was yes one of my favorite shows, but it moved a little bit based on Ed's point of view to not being my number one favorite show and move to my number one favorite show being Sanford and Son. And I think because Sanford and Son end up showing more what I thought was more important for how what I'm operating and where I'm working in capacity. Good Times is a great example. The Jeffersons is another nice example of during that time frame of showing what I would say black fathers in different capacities. One of the shows that many kids loved back then was What's Happening. The show What's Happening, and one of the difficulties with What's Happening is it was what I would almost say a perfect example of a stereotypical show because Raj's Dee's dad was missing. He was what you would call and when in the episode there was a big episode when he did show up, and Rerun didn't really have a dad. Rerun I don't think had any family at some point. He looked like he might have just been out there. No, Dwayne, I know I'm saying stuff, and if you're of a certain age, you don't know what I'm talking about, right? If you don't even know what I'm talking about, I sound like I'm talking. But this is the way people talk today about the shows that they know the characters, and I remember these characters from my childhood very clearly. And Dwayne, and I believe Dwayne had a father, right? But they didn't present him very often. Dwayne came from a completely different place. And you just think about that dynamic that was present in many of the shows we seen during that time. Now, fast forward to today, there is even a bigger disrepresentation of fathers when we look at shows and even in some movies. Unless the person who produces the movie or makes the TV show advocates that you're going to have a representation of a black father who at some point has some substance within the family and within the storyline, other than being the antagonist that causes the family to be in the turmoil that they are in or things of that nature. We see that very often. When that in many cases is not the true representation in the real world. And I can only base this on my experience of dealing with families and dads. There's not very many dads who are missing as we see in mass media. They may not be in the same household, but they're definitely not missing. The kids know who their dads are. They may not be able to see them, or they might see them all the time, or they don't live in the same house. But there is a big difference between the example of no dads, no example of dads, other people having to come in and support mothers with their kids, and this almost a prediction of there are nothing but fatherless families blowing up in the black community. Right now, also, I'll just say this: I've seen also a comparison of when we see some shows that will show that white dads, right? White dads are there, but sometimes they are also shown in a light of being like really horrible dads. Like, I mean, like, woo, the kind of things they have done and the things they're doing. They don't want to be bothered. So there is this. Oh, I would say one group of dads that don't show that, and I somehow maybe they don't know very much and don't show example. But Hispanic dads, a lot of times they show them being very family centered, and probably because they have no other stereotypical way to show them, right? They can't, because it would seem so disingenuous from what you would see them to be. You see a Hispanic family, a lot of times they operate in this family dynamic um, in the way that we look at it, right? And they might be saying that they're criminals and they're here illegal, but they are in somehow practicing as a family. So I'm throwing that out there to you guys and opening up to your thoughts about this idea of the myth of the missing black father, and any thoughts you may have about that, and where you and do you agree? I mean, you can agree and disagree with it. I mean, how are you seeing this topic that we're talking about tonight?
I definitely don't see that fathers are missing, especially black fathers. Um, what what is missing is the traditional aspects of how a father is intertwined in the family. I think that's what's missing. Um, Fathers are there. Fathers are active. In my own circle of influence, being able to see some of these uh, young kids trying to raise families in as separate units, but co-parenting. Fathers are definitely there. Um, I think what is not there is that these kids are kind of growing up in such non-traditional um, families that it gives the illusion that fathers are missing. Um, since, as a general rule, the mother ends up being the caretaker, and that's pretty much all you end up seeing is the mother uh, doing everything. But I believe the fathers are really there. Um, so I think it is a myth that fathers are missing. I think how they uh, I, I think that, yeah. Uh, I said it before. What's missing is the traditional aspect of the family unit that they are
Right.
involved in.
Okay.
So
Okay.
in my terms, what we normally would say is the data that we're collecting is not for the right population, right? So we're collecting data of households of traditional families, right? And saying we're only counting dads in the traditional form, the mom and the dad live in the house together and the kids, right? And if
Mhm.
we don't see that, we're saying those dads don't exist, right? Whereas for many families, and I think, this is gonna, I know Rohan's gonna have something to say about this. In many dynamics of how our society is redeveloping itself, that that model is almost going out, is going out of the window, right? So you're seeing the younger generation not even interested in that model. They're interested in a model of, look, we can have our own lives, we can raise kids, we don't have to be married, we don't have to live the traditional way of our parents. I'm even thinking about some people, some situations I've heard of recently where people were actually living apart and everything was good, and then when they came together, it all fell apart. Right.
Okay.
So the idea of this separate but equal type of idea, the kids live with one of them and either live with another, and not having to live to this commitment or these things, is I think a big part that really, as you point out, that we're the myth is just some misinformation. So it's like you're taking the data. I mean, I used to say this all the time, Rohan. You probably remember we used to
Mhm.
be talking about statistics back in the day, and talking about the statistics of HIV and AIDS, and saying, hey, the larger population of the community are Black women, and that's because you could get that data and that information from where these women would go to get free services, right? So you're not getting the full data of everybody with HIV and AIDS, because the private doctors and the private places where
Mhm.
people would go get checked and take the test, those private physicians wouldn't give out the information. They wouldn't let you know that 18 of their 32 patients had tested positive for HIV and AIDS or something like that. They wouldn't tell you that because they're keeping those people protected. Whereas women are going to health departments, the public health department, any information about you is public to anybody to get that information. So then when they check in the statistics, oh, the highest number will be women. Now that also puts into play, remind you that if men are not even going to get checked out, right? So only people going to the hospital and being checked for free, where all the information could be public, it would be Black, and maybe even when I think about different places, Black and Hispanic women, right? Everybody else, they could be equally at the same numbers, but you're not being able to get their information, or they're not even getting tested or even getting found out. So, that's a big part of the think about. So people have a good understanding when we're looking at, how do we prove that this myth is not true? Is I think that it's not. How do we? I asked the question: how do we prove that it's not true? How do they prove that it is? Right? How do they prove that black fathers are missing? I mean, uh, and I would listen. You want another statistic, and I'm not going to use this as representation of someone being a father, but you can just go to the Internal Revenue Service
Mm-hmm.
and look at how many how many men are on child support. That is a representation of being a father. And if you are paying into that, if you have involvement with your children or not, that means you are not missing, because they are having an account for you to pay finances to the state. Let's remember that the state get their money first, then they pass that money over to your child's primary caregiver, after they take what they're gonna get from it and are utilized, or how they play it. So I don't want people to get ever confused that the state is doing you a favor by collecting child support. They're not. It's a business just like any other business. That's why it's in the department that it is, the Department of
Very.
Revenue. So they gotta get rid of it. You know, just keep that in mind.
Mhm.
Listen, Rohan, we was in them courtrooms, and the revenue representative was speaking more than a lawyer.
Right. Uh-huh. I remember.
Revenue more than the judge and the lawyer. So I want people to not get it, be mindful that this is the kind of things that's happening, that you may not have no exposure to, and maybe not even have any knowledge to. So,
Yep.
Rohan, I thought you was about to say something. Go ahead.
You know, there's an old saying I like. It says numbers don't lie, and we know people lie and or fib, if that's the right word. But in reality, 85% of what men pay child support. Um, that leaves what, say, 15%, I believe. That's either in a family setting.
Mhm.
Keep in mind, even if you're in a family setting, you're still paying some form of child support, because then you're in a home, you're taking care of the child. Supposedly, you're coming home, you're seeing your child. The child needs to go to school. You're in the role of a father, maybe in a marriage or under one roof. Now, missing. The reason there people say the missing black father, well, look around you. You'll see more moms with a child, right? And you can count on the few hands the child with the father. So people see and visualize that that's a female without a father. But if you're paying some form of support, whether it's voluntary or involuntary, you're not really missing. Your money is there, and if you don't believe me, your money is there. Well, as Ron said, check the revenue department of revenue. The money's coming out of your paycheck without you even authorizing it to some extent. So let's get this clear: missing black fathers is a myth. It is not true. It is something that the society makes up and somewhat strive off. Our social media, we are there. In whether we're in the light or we're in the dark, we are there. Now, how can we change that
I,
paradigm?
mhm.
How can we change that? We have the fatherhood program here. This is a way to change it, to have people come in and talk how the journey they're going through, their emotion, their feelings, even their finances. So to address the topic seriously, we know that more men are on child support than there are women. Women pay more than women in most cases, but we're not. We're definitely not missing. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, hey, Rohan, I think that you brought up something, and I think this also goes back to what Ed was saying, is the imagery of what people expect to see. And I want to, being something that I study fatherhood and how it operates, um, this idea of what fatherhood looks like traditionally, right? But also, fatherhood traditionally does not really look like what people look for traditional. The father in the house, he providing and protecting the family, does not look a lot like how fatherhood looks for fathers who are not in the house, right? And when we really look at the engagement time of those fathers who are with their kids not in the house, they have a higher percentage of father time, like time with children, meaningful time, right? Than fathers who are in the house a lot of them. Because fathers in the house are doing the traditional thing, going to work,
Mhm.
and working a major shift to be able to be a full provider to a household. Hopefully, their wife will work. Hopefully, their partner in the household will work. But if they're not, that means that they are pushing that whole economic support of the household on top of when do they have time to be, because I know fathers that's working three jobs. They work a morning job,
Mhm.
an afternoon, an evening job, and work a weekend job. They have
Mhm.
no time to socialize. They get to see their kids a lot of times in passing. And if that is considered what we are accepting and acknowledging as being, you know, a father and on time and a father, I think that's I challenge that. I challenge that. You can see a lot of these fathers who are out here who having to do what they have to do for their children during the time they have their children, having to engage with their children way more than those other fathers. They don't really get the opportunities. And guess what? These guys also still have to work. So
Mhm.
so it's a little bit different. The idea. I mean, Ed, I don't you. I mean, Ed, can you talk a little bit about that? About what it took for you at the time after the passing of your first wife, what it took for you to have to still be a father and still be a worker and still be, how did that actually operate for you, and and how much time that took versus how it was when your wife was there in the household with
It was everything was intentional. I had to make the time to be with my kids. Um, there were um, sacrifices, I guess, that had to be made, even from a work standpoint, because I made sure that I didn't miss too much of anything that my kids were involved in. So there were days off. I went to award ceremonies. I went to parent teacher conferences. All of this stuff that I had to get permission from the bosses. Uh, to let me go to take these days. I would use my vacation days. Fortunately, I had um, a job where I take days off for situations like that. So, but it was very very intentional, and I man, I remember some weeks, trying to make a deadline for a given product that we had to do, and it would be sometimes 60 hours a week.
Mm.
I'd leave before the kids wake up, come home after they're in bed, just to be able to continue to provide and secure my um, position at the job. So I guess it was kind of a give and take, and just being intentional about making the time. Baseball games, plays, track meets, awards ceremonies, football, basketball games on the weekends, putting the kids in various things and activities that they're involved in. So that's kind of like how that played off. And even, with the second marriage, did the same thing with my stepson. So um, Fathers who are in the home, they have to be intentional to do stuff like that and not take it for granted that they're in the same space and assuming that just occupying space is enough to be a father. No, you have to intentionally be interactive.
I'm on board with that. That's a very valid point. Um, most most fathers who may not earn the amount of money to take care of a family have to do the two jobs. I distinctively, well, I remember, I should say, coming from a job 3 o'clock in the morning, getting milk for my babies, and when I stopped at the stoplight, I looked left, I looked right. I didn't see anyone. So what I did, I drove through the stoplight. Drove through the stoplight. The cop pulled me over and said, "Well, you're different." I said, "How so?" He says, "Well, at least you stopped and you look left and you look right before you drove through." And I said to him, "This is 3 o'clock in the morning, and those at Walmart used to be open late, and I'm going home to give the kids some milk, and I have to go back to work at 7 o'clock in the morning." So many of us do put in a lot of effort to give our kids the opportunity to live, to grow. So you're right, Ron, and it's hard to balance both, being working and providing and being an interactive father, so to speak. So it's
I, I love what you just said there, Rohan. I think that this is an important aspect, and I always bring back this to complete parenting, right? I think a lot of times people don't think, we get caught up in this war of who is doing and what they're doing instead of really looking at it and congratulating even the things that both of you and talked about, what you was doing as parents. It wasn't just as fathers, but as a parent. No, you imagine that you had to go get the milk and you do it. You did it. You know what I'm saying? You don't say, well, nah, whatever. And for you to get the milk, you know that you gotta go sleep for 2 hours
Mhm.
and get right back up and get the work to do, and these are the kind of things I think people live in I watch a lot of movies. I watch a lot of shows, right? And I watch them for the structure of realism for how people really live, right? So, Tubi has a whole bunch of movies. A lot of black Tubi movies, right? And I watch them and they're very interesting and they have a lot of what I start evaluating is the reason why the movies can be so interesting because the people don't have no real jobs or no real responsibilities, right? They're
Mhm.
not going to work, they're not taking care of kids. It's just the drama that they're doing. Even when there is kids involved in the movie, the kid is somewhere missing. Where's the kid at? It's like the scenes that they develop for us to see and for people to see. And I know that people don't like this, but this is a fact. I believe that a large majority of our world is being influenced by the art that is on being presented instead of life, representing art. It's more like the art is now representing for people to do what they see in art, and they have this idea of I need to do all of the. I need to listen. One thing I used to kill me about reality shows was everybody on the reality show have no job to me. They got foundations, they got did, but they don't have a job. They ain't got to go deal with uh Mr. Hank. They ain't got to go deal with Miss Susie and ask for. They ain't got to get no vacation day. And you probably have plenty of days off back then, Tinny, because before you wasn't taking no days off trying to keep the work. So you just start thinking about. Listen, the average person outside of them getting sick who need to get their paycheck, and their paycheck is not related to salary, right? So when you had a salary,
Mhm.
you got, like I think Ed, you were saying you got a certain number of paid days for this, you get this and that. But the average father out there today is if you're not working, you're not getting paid.
Mhm.
If you're not on the clock, they're not saying, oh, you work for us, we like you, you're gonna get paid even though you're not on the clock. Listen, I was away today, snow day. I had to go and log in. They send stuff I need to be doing at home as a teacher. Clock in, clock out, clock in. Listen, so if you think you was gonna chill out, you can't because you got to get up at 7 something and clock in, just like you're going to work. And don't fool around and try to go somewhere and do something, whatever, because you got to clock out at 4 o'clock.
Uh-huh.
So it's not nothing is free. You know. And again, I'm a salary employee, but listen, if I ain't show up, if I ain't clocking today, I wouldn't be getting my salary. It'd be like that's you must have took a day off or something. And so these are the kind of
Right.
things when we're working, when you're when you're working on a day-to-day basis, you have to be exactly what Ed said. You have to be intentional for the things that you're doing with your kids. You have to actually be properly planning stuff. Like you got to know that I'm going to work this much. Oh, you got to be looking in the newspaper, seeing that, oh, they're going to have this. And again, I've told fathers this for years. You don't have to have money to have a good time with your children. You don't, because if you look in your communities, you look in your cities, they're always going to have things based on the age of your children that
Yes.
you can go to, take your children, and y'all being there together will be just the fun you need. They don't got to go to Disney World and ride the Space Mountain. They don't have to go to Universal and get on the Incredible Hulk and go to Harry Potter World. You can go right downtown. A lot of times, listen, I know here all the time. I'm looking in this paper. We have a Metro paper here, and they tell you all the stuff that's going on and what stuff is free and what stuff. I mean, listen. You can go down to the museum. They got a free day today. Get up in the morning, take the kids down to the museum for the free day, have a whole activity and all of that. You don't have to worry. But I mean, a big part of that is being intentional, and we have to be intentional with what we're doing. Oh, let's walk. Hey, look who's here. It is Johnny A. Gaspar Esquire. Uh, uh, Keynote. Johnny, go ahead and introduce yourself. We're just sitting here. We're having right now, I guess, a very fruitful conversation. I'm sure you're going to be able to add something to this for sure about the myth of the missing black father.
No doubt, no doubt.
And
Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all. I apologize for my delay in getting on. I was doing some work on a case guy for tomorrow, but I wanted to make sure I stick my face in because this is I read the topic and I definitely wanted to listen and input as well. Great to see you guys. Father of two grown adults that's still in my pocket, but I love them dearly, and they probably gonna be there till the end of time. But I'm great. Love being a father. Incredible part of being of this life that we live is how do we help the next generation that we bring into this world. So I thank y'all for this, and I'm excited about this topic tonight. Um, just if I could jump in, Ron, if you don't mind. The
yeah,
black
go
father
ahead, man. Go ahead.
is not a myth, despite what the world wants to believe and wants the world, social media may want, or the TV. I won't say social media. I would say national media may want you to believe that we are not present. We are not there. But all the statistics say differently. I know Ron has probably dropped a million statistics by now. I know my good boy Rohan, my Jamaican statistic man over there. I know he got a million statistics he done gave us about why that's not true. So again, um, people don't believe it. We are very present. We are very involved. No matter how much the media may want to say that, if you go on social media, you will see us very prominent and present in our children's lives. Um, and we are more so there even as they get older, to the point that our kids are showing the world about their dads. I've got a million what they call them TikToks and videos of my daughter talking about she a baddie, but as a baddie, she got a bald headed dad, her daddy bald headed or something like that. And she's always sharing, she's always sharing me these videos of girls and celebrating their fathers. So I know it's not true, and I just want the world to know that we are definitely here and present and involved, and we continue to be that way. And I don't know what we could do differently, honestly, gentlemen. Um, and I know I'm rambling, but I really don't know what we could do differently. We are present, we are involved. Um, Unfortunately, they even the president of the United States, or should I say, the former president Barack Obama, great father, very involved. You see him always talking about his daughters, Sasha and Malia. Even today, a lot of people are still loving on him, and I know our current president hates that because everybody loves on the former president like that. We are definitely present and involved. And I know Brother Lightborn is about to drop some knowledge, use some big words, and kind of let us know how intelligent he is about this subject. But I'm just glad to be here. Great seeing your faces. And even Brother Tinny, your son is on national TV. You know what he needs to do? When he brings you on the show, have a documentary, and he has you do a guest spot, Tinny. You need to talk about fathers and black fathers and make sure you promote that, okay? Especially let them know about Fatherhood Think Tank, which is right there in Philly. You might even
I'll,
call. You might even got to call Ron to come down to do the show.
if that happens, I'll put it on blast. I'll put it on blast.
All right, thank y'all.
But before Lightborn say something, I want to say something to what Johnny said, because even though we may not, I'm just gonna keep it 100. You talked about President Obama being the father that he is. Even though many people may not like the current president, they might have problems with him. He is a father, right?
Yes,
And
he is.
he is a father very clearly to his multiple children from his multiple wives. But he is a father. He is such a father that he has continued to keep his kids close to him at this present moment in his administrations.
True.
So I just want to, listen. I usually don't can't find too many things, to say that, whatever. But at this
What you
point,
have in
I
common? That you have in common with him.
but I can say that the way he's listen, if you pay attention, the way he's setting up his youngest son Byron to be whatever he's planning to, he got this man, he got him on the rule just like he got Junior, and he got the other one, and the daughter. He basically almost made her the this and that, and with all that. That's fatherhood. And we might not like his ways and the things he do, but he is a father. He has never shown the tone to not be a father to
Good
his
point.
children.
A good point there, Brother Ron. Good point.
I know we're gonna get some MAGA supporters now.
I, I, I can't even fight you on that point, Ron. You're right. You're right. He has always made sure he might not be the greatest husband as we know, but he definitely has shown that he's a very, for lack of a better term, involved father from
Yeah,
that.
I thought about when you just said what you said about your
Yeah.
kids and about keeping them close and then always be around. That actually is how he operates. He doesn't have no kids that's not involved with what he got going on. That's it.
I got you on that. Like boy, what's your thoughts on this great topic we got here tonight? The myth of the black father.
Oh, hey, good evening. I'm sorry for being late. I got locked out of my computer, so I had to use my wife's computer. But first of all, hey, my name is Lionel Lightborn. I'm a
Yes,
father
do
to
that. My bad.
5 of 7 young adults, three young women, 4 young men, 1 granddaughter and 1 grandson. And this is well, it's just a logical answer of the myth of the missing black father, because being black people in general is a myth. And so before I expect black fathers to be a myth because black people are a myth. And so when anytime you have the whole and you categorize the whole as a myth, then of course when you start to go off into different fractions of it, then the myth will continue. You understand? So even if we don't categorize all black people as a myth, we still need some black people to be a myth. You understand? This is the ramifications of slavery and desegregation. Or better yet, not desegregation, but maybe in some aspects desegregation, but the ramifications of slavery and segregation. And so I think we're scientifically, or not even scientifically, but psychologically on track, because if we had the people at one point, what, 50, 60 years ago as a myth, then let's go 50 to 60 years forward. And I think we still suffering from, um, uh, you know, the historical traumas of racism, in categorizing and polarizing a particular group of people as myths. And so again, I'm like, it makes perfect sense for me, because I'm like, and again, you had a whole population, a whole race of people as a myth. And so now you just have a fraction of them, which means your racism has improved a little bit, which is why I think racism should be a psychological disorder, but that's another story. But nonetheless, you understand, it would make sense for people to still have a certain level of ignorance, even though they have graduated from stupidity. But as it pertains to fathers, I'm like, first of all, I think my pastor, I think he said it best, and I'm pretty sure he didn't say it first, but he said, you don't answer to what people, yeah, he said, you don't answer what people call you. He said, oh, it ain't what people call you, it's what you answer to. You understand? So we call it, I mean, calling me absent and all the other stuff. I'm like, no, I wouldn't. Why would I answer to that? You understand? I know I'm present. You don't get to come up with a narrative to define or define my existence. And so to say the fact that I'm missing and I'm right here, you understand? It's the same thing. And I think it's the same psychology that says Black people are 3/5 or 3/8 or whatever the case may be of a human being. You understand? Gotcha. And so that we have to start actually challenging that psychology with another psychology and call people on it. Because I'm like, well, who said it? You said this. I need to know who they are. So I need to have a real conversation with real people. I'm like, okay, who said it? Because there's somewhere educated.
Oh, look like you froze.
He's back.
But if you're educated, right? If you're educated and you're saying that you subscribe to this particular psychology when it comes to Black people or Black fathers or whatever the case may be, then I need to know who you are. You know what I'm saying? Because you're out there legitimately doing illegitimate studies. And we need to know who you are. Because you may be in the classroom with some children that you really don't need to be over. You understand? So you have what they call it when you have a degree.
Yeah.
You have a degree and you're actually pushing this psychology. You understand? And so we need to know who those people are. We can't just go on the narrative, let people put narratives out and hide their hand. I think we need to start calling out, okay, where did the study come from? You understand? We have to, and guess what? That's a requirement when you're talking about getting not even just elementary education, but post-secondary and other education. And so if you're going to have a degree and you're going to have a theology or a theory that goes with that degree, we need to know who you are.
Good point.
We need to know who the writers and the sponsors of these narratives and these bills and these psychologies are. Because the fact that we're talking about something that can be potentially harmful to people who have no idea that you even talk about them because you haven't even talked to them, I have a problem with that. And we'd have to call those people out, find out universities they work out and find out, hey, are you the author or the sponsor of this particular theology or better theology, but theory or psychology that you're putting out there about a particular group of people that you don't know anything about? And are you even a Black person to be having a real study about Black people that you may be obviously scared of?
But we know there's been studies done on us by people who are not us. This is something that's been done historically in this country. Studies about us, what we are, who we are, what affects us when they're not us, of us, or had any experience like us. I think part of it, and I'll ask you gentlemen your thoughts. We used to have, or at least when I was growing up, a lot of shows that had strong Black fathers as the main character. We talk about the Cosby Show, despite what you may have to say about Bill Cosby, that was one of the best shows that showed a strong father in Black America. I mean, let me phrase that, nationally. that the people across the world could see. We had the show Rock, where we had a strong black father there that a lot of us supported and watched. And if you go back further to Good Times, we had James up in there, despite his jacked up haircut, and he never went to the barber. I just don't understand that. James was a strong father in our community. There were a lot of other shows that have strong black fathers playing the lead. I don't see that on television today. We don't see those shows. Now, maybe I'm not missing them because we have so many streaming services out there that they may be on the certain shows and services, but I'm not seeing them. Do y'all think that's playing a role in this crazy mythic thought or theory, as Brother Lightburn shared, of the missing black father?
Oh no, it gets bigger because it may start at the missing black father, but they're technically, and I'm just going to be blunt with you, they're phasing out the man altogether. And most of the time, when you see a father in the most the majority of the sitcom roles, the very popular ones, that father is labeled as a buffoon. He doesn't know anything, and he's an accessory to that show and not a priority on it.
Gotcha.
And so when you have that, I think it speaks to the phasing out of men altogether. So this myth, you understand, it's not only just becoming a myth for black fathers, it's starting to become a myth for all fathers and men alike, because there's no real legitimacy in these shows that push household, is particularly when you talk about reality TV. The father is an afterthought. You don't give me one strong father in a reality TV show, just one off the top of your head.
Well, I don't even that's not reality.
I just wanted to know. And when you do have a father, a man, or the presence of a man in a reality show, he's either a problem, right, or like I say, an afterthought. You know, he's just it's just that he's so irrelevant, right, that it should be insulting to us as men. You understand how polarized, and you would never want to believe that men can be polarized, but reality show has proven that men can be polarized, because they'll go as far as saying have a whole show based on teenage pregnancy. You understand? And then polarize the man in that, and don't even have the man perspective on why or what his role is that leads up to his particular daughter or his son getting this woman pregnant. And all you may mainly see is the relationship between that mother and that daughter, and that man is an afterthought. And so technically, men have been aborted. I'm talking about our whole existence, our priority and our purpose has been aborted when it comes to mainstream media. And I think that's almost by design for various reasons. You understand? Because men have been, and we see it right now with the Epstein's file and everything, men has been deemed the enemy to humanity. And not just black, all men. So when men becomes the enemy to humanity, that's very well designed. It's not perfect, but it's a well thought out plot, right? To either eliminate not only just the priority of men, but in some cases eliminate the purpose of men. That becomes an issue in itself.
I agree with you.
Well, I mean, listen, Lightborn is.
Oh, go ahead, Tini. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I was agreeing with you, Brother Lightborn, on that statement. So I agree that there is almost a design that's happening from the race perspective, as well as the gender perspective from the male perspective from fatherhood. I mean, I can see that migrating through all these years, just watching various TV shows myself. That begs the question, though, is if we're all agreeing that the missing father is a myth, or the motivation behind it to destroy the black man or to destroy the man. What could possibly be the benefit of doing that as the end result? Who benefits from that?
Well, you got what the Bible says something about. Well, the Bible says a few things. I got it says that I think it comes with the curse of disobedience, and I'm talking about when the fall of man. And so again, we always look at when God gave out the consequences to all three: the serpent, the woman, and the man. I think we highlight one of the consequences and miss the other. One of the consequences of the when he gave out the consequences to the woman was the major one. We all know that she'll bear children and pain and stuff like that. The main one we miss is the fact that she almost, I'm just going to paraphrase, it says she will seek to overthrow her husband, but he will rule over her. And so I think women are, just with the consequences, women are almost conditioned, right, to disobey their husband like children disobey women or their mother. It's almost, I mean, literally, it's almost the order of the consequences, because like, and I'm okay with that, because I understand it, that God wouldn't have to tell women to obey your husband, because God's not going to tell you to obey something if it wasn't going to be a problem. And in some cases, if he didn't make it a problem, you understand? But I think with the consequences, and when the consequences was dealt out, then women, yes, I think women treat their husband just like children treat their mothers, almost with the same level of disobedience. And guess what? I'm not going to leave the disobedience at the feet of women and children, because the same way men disobey God. You understand? And so disorder and order or disorder is, and the consequences thereof, we can still see it permeate to this particular day. And so that's just by the spiritual design. I was only talking about the spiritual. Now, by cultural designs, now you're talking about designs culturally. You understand? For every person that think they've been a victim of manhood, then you got vengeance on all those fronts, right? And so any way you a culture or a particular group of people that can find themselves a victim to manhood, then they want to make all of manhood, you understand, villains. And so, and very successful. And go ahead, Ron.
Ron, before you speak, hold on. Ron, before you speak, I just want to make a point. It's a disclaimer. So, to those who are watching, the statements and opinions of the people who are speaking are not those of the show, the sponsors, or any of those people.
Hey, I'm on board now.
Listen, we already know this is a think tank. So I think very clearly, so people know, in a think tank, it is where people bring their thoughts. It has to be there. We're not a cohortion or a consortium. We are, I think, so we're hearing what people's thoughts of and putting them into the atmosphere. Because what I want to come back to support what Lightborn is saying and Ed is saying is that there is this, and I don't think that people have really recognized, and I've been doing some research on it, and we see a movement that is, it is bad to be a man. So if it's bad to be a man, it's even probably worse to be a father, right? So bad to be a man, bad to be a father. And you see the consequences of that narrative affecting young men and the choices that they make. I'm not going to say that people's choices of their gender identity or their sexual identity or any of that is other than what people want. But I think that when people start thinking, I think a lot about non-binary people and how I'm going to use this great example. I'm going to use an example so I'm not just talking out the side of my neck, and then it doesn't. This a couple weeks ago, because this relates to us, there was a YouTube roundtable with men, right? And there was one, I guess they would call it a viral moment when there was a young man, there was two young men, younger men, and they were kind of maybe questioning or chastising Clifton Powell, if you know who Clifton Powell is.
Gotcha.
He
Yes.
is the actor who plays in everything. He plays a bad guy most of the time, ruthless, and again, if that's all you know about him, then that because if you know him, if for me, I investigate him because I can only imagine what it means to have to play roles like that all the time,
Correct.
and how people can't disassociate you as an
Exactly.
individual to the roles you play, right? So he spoke about it one time and saying that he had to tell people that, yo, I'm not that character. I have my own life. I just play, I act in movies. And people hired me because I did good in the last one and that kind of character, and they put me in the next one. And he almost to the point he was saying that he began to concern himself about the roles that he would play. And then now you're talking about messing with his money because why should he
Correct.
have to reevaluate the roles he play if he gonna get the money for it? How he taking money out of his hands for his family because you say he a evil guy, he a bad guy. No, I'm not nothing like that. So I bring us back to the round table. That I want that to be in your head about people thinking something about him in a way because the guys on the round table was just some. I don't think they were as you don't know who they are, but you did identify that they may have been young men who were more of maybe the in the idea of I don't I can just say that they were I'm trying to find a more political correct way to say that they were more of the liberation or uh, 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 maybe let me say they were more of the feminist view mindset, right? And
Okay.
they talked a lot about like you have to protect women, and but it was also in a way that they weren't saying that as masculine men in some sense. So they may
Gotcha.
have been they could have had I don't know what their identities was. I don't know what their sexual, but it came across that they may have been more non-binary type of people who the new generation of a lot of young men that we see today, right? And I'm saying this because a lot of those young men are against the older men who are the men that they are, right? And they don't want to be like those men. So they have took on these roles that almost, and I said this strongly about here in Philadelphia. I have never seen more non-binary white men who are close to I would say they was transgender men, transgender women, whatever. No, I would just say they're non-binary. I'd rather say they're non-binary because it's very obvious that they are not trying to be women, but they are being a feminist way to not be like the machismo man of a typical man, right? Because these
Gotcha.
men are them. Let me say them and they are having girlfriends who that I assume are females, no, that are females who may also be in a non-binary, calling themselves them and they, but they're female. So you see a guy fully dressed in him and the girl, him and the young, him and them is dressed together alike. Hey, they're together and they are together. They're not just two pals together. You can tell by their intimate embracing, they are together. So that tells me that maybe they don't want to be traditional heteronormative men because of the idea of the narrative set for those men, right? So, but
Gotcha.
they still want to have the relationships with women that they obviously are having to me, but they're not seen in that capacity of being like the guy was trying to apply that Clifton Powell was. He a messed up man. Wait till you get 60 and 70 years old to realize what you did wrong and how you and it almost Clifton Powell got very upset because he was like, you don't know me, you don't know my life, you don't know what I learned and the time it took me to learn. Because Clifton Powell has a very valid point. We talk about this all the time, I think, because we are the men of a generation who's seen 2 generations of before us and how our fathers and their fathers behave. Clifton Powell is a man who came from those generations. So as far as him learning, he has probably had to do it in his career up until this point to get to 60 or 70 to start realizing that the stuff that I have been learned behaviors and traditions of what it means to be a man, be a husband, and be these things are in contradiction to how society is looking and acting today for us. And so that is something we have to really, really think about in a big sense of people talking about being a missing father, being a black father, that there is a viewpoint of a narrative of what we should be looking like. Then there's a narrative of how if you look like that, that makes you bad. Right? And then how people are saying you should look. I know that in many instances you will say, hey, I'll say this, I say that, and people be like, oh, you're discriminative, you're this and that. And I was like, I'm the farthest thing from discriminative to anybody. I mean, I would tell what I know is the truth, but I'm not holding anything against you. And I feel like you have the right to do and be whatever you want to be. But I also have an influence that came from my father, who came from his father and my mother's father. So it's a generational thing as a man that I would learn to be like. And it doesn't fit too well in today's society. And I'll give you a great example of what I mean. There's a lady who works at my school. She asked me, do you think that boys should be in school on their own without being mixed with the girls? And I said, absolutely. Because look, our boys get in trouble all the time because the system they're in is more feminized for the girls to be the right way to act, and the boys, everything they do is the wrong way. And that is what we're beginning to see in our society. Men who act like men are wrong or can be bad. So then, God forbid, being a father, you already, as a man, is bad. And you get the narrative is that you're already bad as a man. So as a father, you about to be worse.
And you're teaching it to somebody.
Yeah.
Right,
absolutely. And you're teaching, you're going to make my kid be this way. Yeah. It's a very complex thing
Ron,
to understand and think about. Yeah.
I think, I'm going to be honest with you, I think we pacify each other in these discussions, right? I believe that, and I think men, for when we talk, and I think when they use the psychology when it comes to doing the presentations, you ought to be, I think it's the 3 C's or 4 C's, clear, concise, and all that stuff. And I think we ought to be concise. Because let me tell you this, and I'm telling you on your, just as an animal instinct, right? I'm just going on basic animal instinct, which means your right to life and your right to exist, right? Now I remember by global, what they call it with the green thing, because everybody's supposed to be green until you hold them to it. Because I'm going to show you what accountability look like when we're talking about being global. Okay. And I got my studies too. I keep them. I keep one study on this hip and one on that hip. So let's talk about that same conversation we're talking about. So what I understand was like the manatee or something like that, or the bald eagle. No offense, Gaspar, but
I'm thinking about all of this. Every single man on here, you call my name.
So now, and I'm going to say something, and I'm like, and people are like, oh, it's insensitive. I'm like, it's science. It ain't got nothing to do with its sensitivity. I don't care about sensitivity. I only care about the scientific ramification about what I'm getting ready to tell. And so bald eagles was almost extinct. We had to go into what they call it, protective mode globally and try to put
Conservation.
laws in place and protections in place to protect those bald eagles. Okay, there was a study. Don't ask me why I remember the study, but maybe that study was just for such a time as this. It's a study about the ratio of men to women. It often comes up in relationships, but it's very taboo the way we're talking about it. And it's not talked about with the sustenance or the substance that it needs to be talked about with, which brings me back to my original point about the bald eagle. And so the study says that after the age of about 30, maybe 40, that the ratio of women to men, the ratio of women to men, almost like non-existent, to the point that they have a certain percentage of women. Let me just paraphrase percentage-wise. They said anywhere between 15 to 20% of white women will never be married because of particular crisis that's going on, and within relationships. So 15 to 20% of white women will never be married. 25 to 30% of Hispanic women would never be married. And statistics got even higher with black women. 40 to 50% of black women would never be married. And they raised here's the reasons why they say it. They said because of the crises among men, which means the way our lifestyles, because the way men live, and because we live so risky, like we ride motorcycles, we do a lot of daredevil things, and not to mention incarceration rate and the homicide rate, is the reasons for those numbers of women who will never be married. And so I'm saying that to say this. All the studies they did, because I noticed it didn't come until years later that I realized, like, wow, they never factored in the actual the LGBT ratio or input when it comes to why that is, and how does that, or how would that exacerbate the numbers of women who would never get married. And so they were just basically saying, from a heterosexual standpoint, that because of these risky behaviors of men, that those amount of women, or those percentage of women, would never be married. No matter what happens, they will never see marriage, only because the way men live puts us at risk to never get to the women that we were meant to get to. And so now when I factor in and me and Don Lemon, it was an old argument, but it did happen. Had the same argument. I'm like, hey man, you can't talk about the young men being disrespectful to black women, how we wear our clothes and stuff like that, and not factor in the ratio of men to women, and you wanting to be with a man, right? And so when we talk about that, because I'm like, you got to have some creative, and I think men, at some point, we done cower down to have these courageous conversations we need to have to really be, what's the word I'm looking for? Effective in our families, whether they love you or not. Because truthfully, if you love somebody, you're telling the truth. And so with that particular studies, I'm saying that, and women, again, women are women, they're going to just love men in whatever condition that we in. You understand? And so they can, because of their support and what they're literally naturally built to support men in whatever condition, in whatever state that we in, sometimes they will be what they call betting against their own interests. Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm promoting a man being with another man. And again, if that's your choice, that's your choice. But I'm not going to sit here and act like, okay, how does it contribute to your, you know what I'm saying? Your girl, she wants a man. And guess what? If you can be her friend, you can be her husband as well. Right? But it's one thing for you not to want her, right? And then take away from the deficit that she's already facing. And so when we have these, and I'm like, listen, I ain't never been scared to have an LGBT conversation. You understand? Because we think that, when it comes to different things like promiscuity or whatever, because we talked about that last week, promiscuity and all this other thing, we think we put being a homosexual up against being a whoremonger, right? That's really what it's about. It's the homosexuals against the whoremongers. And so the homosexuals are saying, oh, you men are bad because you're whoremongers. And the whoremongers are saying, oh, you men are bad because you're homosexuals. Right? Because that's what it really was. I literally had a conversation like that in the middle of a conversation with Michael Eric Dyson that was supposed to host it, but he never made it. So one of his friends from the university came and hosted, and it was gays in the black church or something like that. That was a conversation over time I had. And never dawned on me that, well, I'm like, wait a minute, we both sitting here arguing. And that's what it was. The whole conversation was the homosexuals were saying that, oh, you men are bad because you're whoremongers, and the whoremongers are saying you're bad because you're homosexuals. That's the whole conversation. That's what it ended up to. And so when you have to be prepared, because at the end of the day, and that's back to Teeny's point, because Teeny asked a very, very critical question, right? What's the consequences of what we're doing right now? And the consequences as such, I'm like, hey, I think, because I got daughters, I'm like, hey, that ratio applies to my daughters. It applies to your daughters. And I think what happened is what we do is ignore those studies to say that, hey, sweetheart, you understand that just the way men live their lives, and we're just talking about just natural, risky, just riding motorcycles, homicide rate, and the incarceration rate, it limits your access to ever being married or ever finding a husband. That's the study. Nobody wants to talk about. Of course, I wouldn't talk about it because it's a very uncomfortable, but yet accountable study. And so when people are already talking about it, I'm like, man, and don't go and then don't throw sensitivity up, and you can't put sensitivity up against science. You understand? And then we're talking study. Don't bring sensitivity up in a study conversation. And that's where men get off the boat, because we start to become vulnerable, because we think because we lack sensitivity, right? It's a disregard the science or the study that we have. And so we'll say, you know what? We'll land the plane at sensitivity and never really get back to the study, the science that's actually, it's what's going to really be the outcome of our daughters and their children and their children's children in the future, and what that's going to actually look like, because we're saying, you know what? We like the experiment more than we like the experience. Everybody loves the experiment. That's why we're more successful at dating than we are at marriage. Mm-hmm. Humanity just one big walking experiment. Because if we're really talking about accountability, then you should be talking more about the experience of a relationship than the experiment. And right about now, everybody walk around being experiments of each other. And you think that's going to take you a long way. I'm going to tell you something factually that's going to cause psychological problems, which is why you have so many mental health issues right now, because we think we're successful at being each other experiment than we are being each other experiences. And that's going to cause far more psychological ramifications than you ever will see in your life. And so anytime anybody decides they want to have this conversation, please, come on. I live for it. You understand? And not so much to be right. You understand? But to help us get right together. I can be wrong, but I'm going to, if you don't know what's on my mind, I have to tell you so you can disagree with it. But if I hold it to myself like most men are trained to do, you understand, for the sake of being insensitive or labeled insensitive or be labeled a myth or whatever other crap they got out there. You understand? I'm like, you're worth the risk. And so that's just why, I mean, there's so many different logics and stuff like that that go along with it. But there is a sociological risk and crises that comes along with right now with what the different psychologies, that cultural psychology that we're subscribing to, but it's not being taught or talked about. It's more on a sensitivity and more not on a scientific level. So we have to start talking scientifically and not just let sensitivity override the conversation.
So based upon what Lightborn just shared, do we believe that that's also a part that, I guess, adds to this myth? Because he just shared about the whole LGBTQ thing that I didn't even think about.
But I think that here's the point. It is funny that we even look at this, because it's not going to look that same way, right? And the reason why is because what the narrative that we see about LGBT people and their equality, wanting equality, is, oh, they want to get married, they want to have children, they want to have the typical hereditary normative, but they want to have it in their homonormative marriage way. So they want to have a marriage, they want to have what's typical, but for them to do it in their way, right? So they want to be able to do that. They want to do the same thing heteronormative people want to do, but they want to do it in their LBGT way, and whatever way that is. If they want to be a trans woman and get with a trans man, and they have a kid, and they live in a family in a house together, and they want the world to accept that, right?
Yeah.
They want that to happen. And the point is, what I hear Lightboy saying, and what's so important is, and he touched on it when he said that the thing about in Miami when he had the conference, they were so busy talking about how disruptive heteronormative men are, who are men and fathers, how disruptive they are, at the same time wanting to do the exact same thing, and saying that what they're going to do is not the same because it's different, because it's under this umbrella. Because they have to fight to do it. We have a privilege to do it. They have to fight to do it. But that's because that has become either their choice or their designation to live in that lifestyle, or for that to be the way that, as I like to say, they say that people say that they are. They are that way. Now I have seen different, because I know more. There's a lot of LBG people who are. Listen, let's take the most famous LBG father there is. Flame Monroe.
Who?
Do you know who Flame Monroe is?
Flame Monroe.
Right, exactly. Flame
That's
Monroe.
the one who, that's the one I see, the transsexual young comedian.
Right, comedian, transsexual, and I don't know if you say he or she. I'll say she, but he seems to me to be very realistic about a lot of things. That's a fact, because he has multiple kids from when he was a man, and he then transferred to be the woman. But he's very true about certain things about being a father and these dynamics. And here is what we're saying, is that when people are starting to see these types of narrative, it is almost making, in many instances, the dynamic of the heteronormative family more distinct, like that, like it's extinction, and so you begin to see this break off to people expanding, like, because look at the people who are in the polyamorous relationships. They want to have multiple partners
Wives or husband,
and kids, and so one man has 6 kids. Y'all listen, I take a famous one. Yahweh, mean Yahweh, Yahweh, Yahweh. I look at these guys on the thing. These men got six wives, 20-some kids. See some of the Israelite guys, they have like 2 and 3 wives, 4 and 5 kids, and they are starting their idea what they think families are. Now these guys are they have some real, stringent belief systems and ways that they operate, that when you talk about men being like bad guys, sometimes they come across, but then in their world, they are exactly who they are and doing what they're supposed to be doing. So it's kind of like one of these, 50-50 type things, 12, half a dozen,
6, 7.
I mean, 6. Yeah, 6, 7.
When it comes to the LGBTQ, a quick one, Ron. People are people, regardless of your sexual minority or sexual majority. People have the same behaviors. If you go to the courthouse, you will see people fighting for pets or fighting for children. They have the same behaviors. So the sexual part of it is a lifestyle of choice, but the same behaviors exist. You have fathers raising children, you have mothers raising children, but we want the society to do the best, right? We want the society to give that child the opportunity to grow and to grow within a family network to be successful and to be a plus in the society. So, despite their sexual gender or so forth, again, it's gonna always be, we have to do the same thing. We grow the children
Well,
this.
but Ron,
Well,
listen, I agree 100 because I don't think that when we're talking about being fathers, right? Our focus is fatherhood and being fathers, right? So
Right.
their sexuality, how they got there to be that, it really is not what we're looking at. We're looking at what ends up happening when they become these fathers. To me, a lot of times, I'm very concerned with the idea of what does the child get if they are in a relationship and they're not seeing a father, right? So, or they might see someone who is portraying to be a masculine father. Like I know many couples where the male, well, the lesbian partner or the what they call them, stud, the masculine stud is portraying to be the man and the father of this
Right,
child, right?
right,
And
yeah,
their actual father is actually, it is funny because the actual father is being downplayed as a bad person, as nothing good, like they don't, like, it's a crazy thing when that to me is problematic. I think that is great. If listen, you can be his you
he's
can be
step
his father and stepfather, whatever at the house, but he's
right.
still gonna be my son, so he can get the other aspect because it's me he has genetics to. It's me he has to learn from. It's me that he has to. And when it comes to him having an issue later on in life, it's not going to be because of you. It's going to be because he didn't have this connection with me.
That's
And
it.
that's what's important. That's the part that I advocate for. That is cool. Listen, if like I said, if a trans woman and a trans man decide that they get together and they have a child, I have no problem with that because both of those parents are there and they raise their child how they want their child to be raised. Because
but
they
no,
got their mom, they got their dad, and it. Listen,
but Ron, that's not the danger. Okay, that's not the threat that we under, man. I'm just going to be honest with you. There's a global threat right now.
Mhm.
Or better yet, not even the global. You won't see a threat. Yeah, it is a threat,
yeah,
but
no, it's a threat. It's a threat.
it's a
No, no,
global threat, and it's
it's
a
a threat.
global narrative right now as we speak. Right, that
Mhm.
is um, painting sexual predators and trying to solidify sexual predators as heterosexual men. That's number one, and particularly successful heterosexual men. That's number two, right? And so, what we don't realize, and I never said this publicly, I say it now. So the heterosexual man think the homosexual man is the greatest sexual predator. Then the homosexual man think the heterosexual man is the greatest sexual predator. What both of them don't realize is, I'm like, you know what makes you a sexual predator? I'm gonna say this scientifically. You can research it later. I said, you
You're a
know
man.
what makes you the greatest sexual predator?
You're a man.
It's not because you're homosexual or heterosexual. It's because you're a Homo sapien that makes you the greatest sexual predator. And when you start to understand what a Homo sapien is, being a sexual predator doesn't come from the heterosexual or the homosexual you are, because those are two conscious things. Whether you're a conscious homosexual or whether you're a conscious heterosexual, that is not where the predator lives. The predator actually lives in the Homo sapien, which is the animal instinct that you are. And that's where the predator lives. But we have a narrative that's trying to put the sexual predator on both sides, whether it's heterosexual or homosexual, and where both of them are actually wrong and scientifically wrong at. No, it's a Homo sapien that actually makes you the predator. Because if you know anything about a Homo sapien and you ever watch animals, because it's an animal instinct, if you ever watch animals. And being a Homo sapien, it means, and this is true for human beings too, it means you're likely to have sex with any person, at any place, with anything, and any idea you can come up with. That's the Homo sapien. That's the sexual predator. That's the threat. I can say this now, and it take them 20 years to study us to get right back to this point what I just told you. So the predator is not within the status of which you exist, in your political or popular status of being a homosexual or heterosexual. It's the Homo sapien is where the actual sexual predator lives. And until you start to put some scientific psychology on it and start to make this thing not just criminal, but equally as mental. You understand? Because people don't like, no, it is a mental condition. If it wasn't a mental condition, you won't have all these different sexual paralysis with psychological names behind them. People who want to have sex with dead people, necrophiliacs, bestiality, and stuff like that. And so when one tries to say, you know what, we have an opportunity to overthrow the other. You understand? I'm like, again, it doesn't matter, because whether you have your way or not, the actual sexual predator lies in you being a Homo sapien and not a homosexual and not a heterosexual. I'm gonna leave that where it's at. That's just I'm still testing that one out.
I think that this all lends it. Listen, it's interesting that the topic we had tonight was the myth of the missing Black father, and I think that where people might be saying, "Well, how they get all the way to right here?" And this is how compound this topic is, because the fathers who are there are going they can be found in so many places. It's not as simple as saying that the traditional fathers that we have in the house, are missing. The fathers who are not in the house, you see them as missing, but they're probably spending more time with their kids because they have more one-on-one individual time with their kids. But as far as people are concerned, traditionally, they're missing because they don't show up, waking up in the same house with the kid every day. And then we have the third opportunity. We're talking about people who have different lifestyles. And at some point of the idea of where are fathers missing in that umbrella of the lifestyle that people may be living. These all three of these are vital things that we need to be thinking about, and especially thinking about it more about how it affects us as individuals and our own families. Sometimes people are worrying about stuff that they ain't gonna never be your issue. I don't, because I have to learn these things, but I think that's something like on a typical basis. Ed and well, maybe Johnny might have some law cases, but Ed and Rohan, they're thinking about their individual, what space they fit in as a father and how they can work out their father things. And I think that's the big part of hopefully what we've been able to offer tonight. Different subjects, different silos that people think they are, that we can break the roofs off those silos and know that it's not, as Life One say, you're not in an individual silo. It is an overall for all of us as Homo sapien men, that what happens and what we do is what people look at. And that's where, we need to really be evaluating how we can, do work around that ability and those things. With that being said, we come to our time, man.
Before you go, I just want to say one thing. I didn't even think about some of the stuff y'all said as reasons why we are considered missing. Like, I didn't, until you brought up the whole LGBTQ thing, that wasn't even part of my thought process. Right. You get what I'm saying to you? So I thank y'all for that, because now, like you said, Ron, it's the father who's in the house who doesn't have the time. There's father who doesn't live in the house because he doesn't live there. And then there's this complete different section where their children being raised by people who don't want a father in that, or they believe they have the skills to be the father. So he's missing in that realm as well. So it was, again, I learned a whole lot tonight, which I thought I knew some things, but again, I thank y'all gentlemen for always enlightening us, man. Listen, no, because again, although you see it, it's in your face, it's very prominent in all that we're doing on TV and everything else. You don't necessarily correlate it to certain things that you may be having a conversation about every day, as we do every week with being fathers. I didn't necessarily correlate what was happening there to children not being raised by fathers. I just figured, the father wasn't involved, whatever reason that may be. But you may have a lifestyle in which you choose not to have a male involved in that child's life
Right.
because of the
Exactly.
lifestyle you are living. And that in turn has that child, with if it's a male or female, living without that part of them being exposed to them so they can know. So thank you, gentlemen, again for this evening. I appreciate it.
Well, again, folks, if you have not did so, like, share, subscribe, hit the bell. I see that we had quite a few people watching tonight, and I want to say this is earlier when Johnny was saying, "Hey, the opinions are the individual fathers and this and that." This is the true fact, but this is the reason why we have a think tank. This is not the think tank is for us to bring our thoughts into the tank, throw them out, and hopefully they resonate with somebody in some way at some other point, and that we leave here with some thoughts about something different than what we came in with. And I think that Johnny proved a perfect example that this was not something he was thinking about initially, and it came up in the conversation we had based on people's experiences and bringing it, presenting it. This is how change happens. This is how things really exposure and change occurs in these kind of settings. That's why we love to continue to have the Fatherhood Think Tank, and we will again see you here next week. First, let me just go quickly over our sponsors before we get out of here. Again, we have the man himself, JAG Attorney at Law, Miami-Dade, Broward, West Palm Beach. If you need to get in contact with him, you can hit him at J Gaspar at jag1law.com, or that phone number at 305-827-8087. If you need to know what's going on over there at JAG Attorney at Law, you can hit him at www.jag1law.com. We also want to thank our sponsor of the Fort Lauderdale Qs, the Bruhs, Zeta Chi Chapter of Fort Lauderdale, the Zeta Xi New Chapter, Lagos, Nigeria. Folks, we are international. The Father Think Tank is international. And the Omega Lambda Chapter in Philadelphia, the Philly Qs. If you are needing help or assistance, after we get off of here, you can't get in touch with me. Please call the Fatherhood Call Center and Helpline for dads 1-8774-411, offered by the National Responsible Fatherhood Clearinghouse and Fathers Incorporated. And just a reminder, if you're not doing anything on Thursday nights at 8 o'clock, come over to the Healthy Black Marriage and Family Podcast with myself, Dr. Ron, Fawn Robinson, and Jaquetta Sumter, a team of people. Our team talks about all kinds of issues that affect the Black family and marriage. We'll see you here again next week here at the Fatherhood Think Tank. We really definitely want to thank you for joining us tonight. Again, I want to thank you guys for being here. As always, without you being here, we wouldn't be going where we're going and getting what we do it. So let me just give you guys this round of applause. Let me give you guys this round of applause for always being here. Thank you so much.
I see you.
And we're going to take it on out of here with the pledge. Fathers, if you repeat after me, I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of honor.
I am a man of honor.
I am a man of honor.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of courage.
I am a man of courage.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of respect.
I am a man of respect.
I say, fathers, I am.
I am.
I am.
Fathers, I say that you are.
You are.
Fathers, I say that we are.
We are.
We are.
Championship
fathers.
As you see, we always holding our hands up, holding our kids and the world on our back. thank you for joining us. And I'm gonna listen. Hey, try not listen, John. I know you got the man call you the eagle with your bald head. I just thought about this. Don't talk about my hairdo, man. I got to listen. I'm getting the James Evans hairdo. James Evans, George Jefferson. I'm going back to the 7. James Evans, George Jefferson, and Red Fox, Sanford and Son. So don't talk about our hairdos, brother. This taking it back to the old school, brother. And with that being said, folks, thank you for joining us. We will see you here next week. Fatherhood Think Tank is always rolling and always ready to hear the third view. And good night.
All right. Good night, fellas. Take care.